angle to GTM. And I'm super excited. We have Yvonne Chow with us here. She has over 13 years of international product marketing experience across B2B and B2C industries in APAC and North America. And most recently in product marketing, leading roles at Hootsuite and LinkedIn. She's currently the head of marketing and the director of marketing, to be specific, at Certn, which is based out of Vancouver in Canada. It's into the, I think Certn's into the background check for HR. That's the use case, right? And I've heard that they're doing extremely well thanks to your leadership. I'll leave the stage to you, Yvonne.
Thank you. I'm just going to check and make sure that my slides can be seen, or do I have to do
Absolutely.
Something? They can be seen?
You can share your screen now and we can check on that.
All right. Apologies. Just give me a second.
No worries at all.
All right.
Yes, visible.
Perfect. All right. So thank you so much for the kind introduction, Vikrant. And this is my perspective on go-to-market best practices, which is a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. As Vic mentioned, I'm Yvonne, and I've been in product marketing for over 13 years across B2B SaaS, B2C, fintech, and telecommunications. And I started my career actually in APAC, so out of Malaysia and Singapore, before I moved to Canada 3 years ago. So I'm speaking to you now from my home office in Canada. What we do here at Certn is that we are not just Canada's fastest growing companies, but we're a leading people data platform. So we help businesses perform fast and accurate background checks. And I'm just really proud to be working for a company whose mission is to build trust in people and teams in a remote first world. So, product marketing, PMM, you'll hear me say those acronyms interchangeably, and, feel free to ask me questions along the way.
It's wonderful.
Now, just want a little bit of context about PMMs, right? And why this is the perspective that I'm using. So in my experience, every company defines the product marketing role differently. It could be due to where the company is in terms of the growth and maturity and what its immediate business needs are. So in my opinion, beyond just being responsible for positioning and messaging and competitive differentiation, PMMs, they really sit right in the middle of all the business units that we're all part of, right? So we connect sales and partners and marketing teams to ensure alignment and the work efficiencies. It's all just to generate and close opportunities with our customers. So as the product marketing team that sits at the intersection of multiple departments, PMMs, and some of you may be PMMs yourself, or you might be working with them, you'll figure out that we are part of or responsible for managing that end-to-end go-to-market, or GTM, of any product or service. So I wanted to provide an opinion on what exactly go-to-market is, when it starts, and ultimately, who starts, owns, and executes the various phases of GTM. I'll also explore if there's an ultimate GTM blueprint. So at this point, I've probably logged, I don't know, Vic, if you're keeping count, but there's probably 8 or so acronyms now, right? Like PMM, GTM, B2B, and so on. So there's going to be quite a few more, but feel free to ask me for clarification, and I trust you. All of these acronyms are all within context.
Sure. Yvonne, we have one slide glitch. Can you reshare your slides, please? I think it's out of focus. We have a couple of participants mentioning that they can't see it clearly.
Not a problem. Let's retry this again.
Sure.
The virtual world, everybody. This is the new normal.
Yeah, I think all of us are used to it. Yes, I think it's good right now. It's great.
Better? Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. The main meat is coming up, so I promise you haven't really missed anything but this. So when we talk about GTM, right, go to market, more often than not, when you're in different companies and different teams, when you try to understand how a company functions, or how the teams are set up, or how your stakeholders are set up, and how their GTM processes are, it can kind of feel like this. It doesn't matter which company you're with or how big they are. So it really does feel like a glob of chaos. So I thought that we could maybe start here, right? You'll find a lot of really good resources online about GTM strategies and frameworks. So what I've done is I've taken my personal learnings over the years and boiled it down to these 4 pillars. These are what I believe the 4 main pillars are to a successful GTM or go-to-market when you're working cross-functionally. So we'll start with the first one, which is understanding your market and potential. Now, what do I mean by that? Simply put, it really is just understanding your market and your customer trends and developing good competitive intelligence. Now, you have these data points and they will help you understand untapped opportunity. Obviously, for example, are there new products or features that haven't been built yet for your main customer base? If you understand your market and customer trends, and you do this regularly, it really helps you refine your audience targeting and your addressable market too. The one thing that we need to not take for granted is that, your customer type may change, your buyer persona may change, right? And there's a difference between buyers and users, and you just need to stay up to date with these trends. In summary, basically, how do you identify where the smallest change can make the biggest difference? And if you're able to understand your market and its full potential well, cross-functional partners, they'll all reap the benefits, right? Sales colleagues, sales teams, they will know which verticals to develop. The product teams will understand what influences a buyer, which is very different from how a user literally uses a product. Now, across all the teams, everyone, of course, benefits from competitive intel, and how they position themselves in the market. So altogether, the different departments can work and come up with a plan to counter it. Now, the next pillar is understanding the buyers and the users, as well as their pain points. Now, in some of my previous roles, product marketing will own the buyer persona in collaboration with marketing and sales, whereas the user persona is owned by the product team. And this is just like a general trend I've seen, not necessarily a hard and fast rule. However, this makes sense to me because, in my role as marketing, I interview the buyers, I interview the sales teams, I try to understand the value that they see in the solution that we're offering, and then I bring those insights to product. The product team then connects my buyer persona research to their user persona research. And this gives us a full picture of how the product's perceived and then how it's used and how it's continuously purchased again and again. So here are some of the questions that we would address as a cross-functional team, right? Again, between product marketing, marketing and sales. Product will help to address the jobs to be done, JTBD, right? So literally, what tasks are your products addressing? That blends over into the pain points that your product is solving for. So at the same time, your marketing partners will elevate that product messaging by determining the business issue that is plaguing the buyer at the time. So, your product messaging and positioning, it does need to address their purchase motivations. Now let's see.
Yvonne, do you mind sharing the screen once again? I think I'm again seeing some blur in the, yeah.
Not at all. Oh, right.
Yes. Good to go again.
I think I'll share these slides with you so that maybe there's a chance to share it with the audience.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Sounds
Absolutely.
good.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no worries. So we quickly talked about, understanding your market at potential, which is the first pillar, right? Where the smallest change can really make the biggest difference. We talked about then understanding your buyers and your users as well as their pain points. Again, really important in go-to-market because you can't just launch something because you feel like launching it, right? The third pillar in a successful go-to-market strategy is really getting your product and price and your solution fit. So I hope that this image isn't blurred, but I really like this one here. Okay, so if there's one key takeaway from this slide, it's this. Never try to sell a meteor to a dinosaur. It wastes your time and annoys the dinosaur. Or in this case, it makes them extinct, right? So fit is really all about your product, your price, your positioning, and even your marketing channels. The questions that I think about as a product marketer, and you could also use these questions as well in whatever role you're in, is why? Why is your solution compelling to the target audience that you have? Are you speaking their language? Are you addressing their pain points? If you are, great. Now, how do you build awareness? It's one thing to have like great product market fit, my apologies. But if you're not where your audience consumes their information, you're not going to see the product adoption. You're not going to see revenue growth. Everything good so far, Vic? Okay, perfect. Now, I know that marketers today, they love using digital channels because that's where we are, right? So you're here, you're watching me online. Hopefully I get to talk with a few of you soon. But there are pockets of customers where it does make sense to do roadshows when the time comes back, or trade events instead of like relying solely on digital channels. So we really need to understand where and how they consume the information. Now, last but not least, measure and improve. Something that we know tangentially, but I feel a lot of people don't really do and implement. If there's one thing I learned very early on in my career, it's that numbers matter. Tactics are fairly easy. So it's much easier to say that I want to publish an ebook. I want to create an email nurture campaign. It's easier to say that than to say, I'm publishing an ebook because I want to drive these goals or objectives, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is in any go-to-market process, all of us as cross-functional partners, we have to really give visibility on why we're building this product, why we're applying a particular tactic, whether it's a sales tactic or a marketing tactic, and what results that we're expecting, whether it's a change in your customer behavior, whether you're expecting an increase in revenue and how much that is. And that will really help to elevate all of your roles individually and drive success and go to market. So to this effect, beyond being specific or sitting down with the cross-functional partners and sharing aligned goals and metrics, you really need to make sure that everyone is clear on not just how a landing page would look like, for example, but just really clear on what results we're trying to drive. If I'm speaking to product marketers or marketers in the group now, I also want to make sure that we remember that it's important to follow up every single time. After there's launch, after we've got a campaign, you need to find out what you can improve on, right? Work with your sales teams on the campaigns and campaigns that you've run, and figure out which ones have performed really well and why, and which ones didn't perform and why, and see if you can replicate that in the future. So,
Yvonne, can you please reshare the slides? I think we're having some issue with it being out of focus.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm sorry for the constant interruption.
Oh, don't worry. This is important. Like, as long as you're able to see it, we're good.
Absolutely. Yes, we're good now.
All right. So I've covered the 4 key pillars, and don't worry, I'll recover them again in a bit. But the other question I get a lot from my conversations is, does go-to-market really start when there's a new product to launch? It's very exciting. It's a new product, right? No. Let's review our 4 pillars, which you can see here, and how they can be applied throughout your revenue generating cycle. So again, we get very excited with the phrase GTM or go to market because it sounds really new and fresh and product launch. But really, again, it's not just for new things. When you have a change, right, in anything, it can kick off a go to market motion. It can be big, it can be small, but you would go through the actions of ensuring that your messaging is on point, right? So you've reached out to your customers to let them know of the change, and you've trained your sales teams on the changes. So, if you have that change in product or messaging, anything that could kick off a go-to-market motion. Next, what about your buyer and your user persona? So sometimes the user behaviors, they change, right? Or even your buyers change. And when they do, you might have to explore a brand new product or new messaging to appeal to these changes. That may kickstart a new go-to-market motion. The same thing goes for fit. Now, what if you changed your pricing, right? Or maybe you've discovered in your customer segmentation exercises that you have a new customer type. you might find yourself in a new GTM motion where you'd have to understand your market really well again, monitor your competitors and still see if you have that product market fit. And as with all of them, your metrics will change according to the strategies that you put in place to address the situations. So it's not just a new product that will create a go-to-market strategy. Now, I'll give you guys more acronyms. In almost every company I've been at, I've heard this a lot, right? There's a lot of, yes, I'd like to be involved, me too. And then, oh, you want to be involved? Them? Why do they want to be involved, right? And then, oh, what's the RACI, the RACI? What's this rapid, right? Who's in charge of what? What's going on? So there's a lot. There's a lot here, right? Product marketing, product management, UX, user experience, right? And then everything at the bottom, there are your sales and CSMs, your customer success managers. It's a lot. But I'm putting this here because it really speaks to the success of GTMs and how that success hinges on effective collaboration between all of your team members, not just the immediate department that you're working within. So I would usually see this as the starting point, right? Know who your cross-functional stakeholders are. So let me invite you to take a bit of a deep breath, right?
Sorry for the interruption again, but we have again an out of focus situation.
No worries. Actually,
this truly is the new normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good you called this out because there's a reason why I invite the audience to take a bit of a deep breath, right? So we talked about all those cross-functional partners earlier, that PMM, UX, AEs, RMs, whatever. Now, the thing is, here's what I think a cross-functional team might look like across the go-to-market phases. So feel free to have a screenshot if you'd like. This is just an example, right? Now, but typically, in an ideal world, which doesn't happen too often, you'd start out with a discovery phase, right? Literally just discovering the market, figuring out what's happening. And then you move into design and alignment, and then you launch and you monitor. Those are basic terms, which I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. There are different deliverables and activities that correspond with each phase. And what I've done here is I've used the RACI roles and responsibilities framework, right? Responsible, accountable, consult, and informed. And this is where all of the different teams would come in and what their extent of the responsibilities are. Again, this is not the rule book. This is a rule book I have used in a company, and different companies will evolve. They have their own frameworks, but this is a pretty good sort of benchmark to look at. So this is by no means the only blueprint that you should use. You need to adjust it. And if you're a product marketer out there who's looking at this, or you're in ops, this would be a really helpful framework for you. Before I kind of come towards the end, I wanted to share my experience in launching a product within a local market as well as a global launch. And then you can kind of see if there really is that sort of universal blueprint, right, for go-to-market. So during my time at Singtel, so that's Singapore Telecommunications, they are Asia's largest communications group, and we launched a greenfield mobile commerce venture for our end users. It was called Singtel mRemit, which is money remittance over your phone. What did go-to-market look like at the start? So the initial business strategy, of course, was driven by our cross-functional senior leadership, and that meant you had not just our executives, but also the leadership from product, from sales, and from marketing, as well as legal, finance, that sort of thing. And then, of course, you had to do market research. Now, this is where it gets quite detailed, where you can see that people who are responsible and accountable for market research and competitive intel were product marketers and product managers, because we were building a new product. We were trying to understand the market that we were playing in. And we consulted and informed our sales teams, as well as the other marketing channels, and our legal and finance teams. When it came to building the product, we left it to our product managers and our engineers to be responsible and accountable for those deliverables. And of course, they kept product marketers, marketing, sales, legal informed and consulted. And when we did product testing, this is something I'm really proud of, but I know that, everyone in the team, when it's a greenfield product and it's new, people do that testing, from 8:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. Is it still blurry? Do you want me to
can you please refresh this again? Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
I didn't want to interrupt your flow, but I think we can get a better idea.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is one example of launching a local product. And this is across, like, when you're launching a new product, and it's a cross-functional effort. I hope it's still good.
Yeah, very good.
All right. So time to GA. Probably one of my second or third last acronyms. GA is what is known as general availability. Basically, it's, a fancy way of saying time to launch. Now what? So then we look at, the next phase, which is you got to do your pricing, your market fit, right? So in this case, the product marketers owned the pricing, and then we consulted finance and sales, and we informed everyone else in the organization. And then sign off. We're ready to launch. We're good to go. Product marketing and product were ready, and everyone else was consulted. Marketing channel strategy. So this is when you say, hey, I would like to go on to social, or I want to go email, I want to have like SMS blasts. The ones who were responsible and accountable is marketing, and then we consulted again everyone else. And monitoring, everyone had different metrics. Product would monitor their product usage, marketing monitors their marketing campaigns, and so on and so forth. Is it still blurry?
No, we're good. We're good.
So whenever I share my story about Singtel, and because it's such a huge company, people ask, how do you keep track? This one's really interesting because it's less of a solid data point, but more of like how we worked as a cross-functional team. We were all really united as a team on our North metric, which was we wanted to enable financial inclusion for people who traditionally didn't have access to that capability. So we thought we were going to change the world, and it was meaningful work for us. So that's why we were there. And I brought this up because I want to remind everybody that there is an element of bringing your true self to work and being able to have that genuine relationship with your coworkers to drive effective go-to-market. My last example is during my time at Hootsuite. So this is when I was already in Canada, and we were launching a product globally. So Hootsuite, for those of you who aren't aware, we are the world's most widely used social media marketing platform. And we launched the product at the end of 2019. There's a bit of an echo there. Is everything good?
Yeah. Can you refresh this once, please?
Perfect. So go-to-market at the start for an international product launch, fairly similar in all respects, right? We still had that leadership coming down from the top. And then in terms of the market research and comp intel, it was still obviously PMM and PM. And we consulted and informed the rest of our teams. But you can tell that GTM is primarily definitely driven a lot by that product-led piece. In terms of product testing, this was a global launch. So we had a global beta program, and that meant that we reached out to our global teams, like, in Southeast Asia, in EMEA, to help us out with this beta program. Now, when it came time to launch, of course, again, very similarly, there's a marketing channel strategy that had to play out. And what's new here is because this was a B2B SaaS product, we had a sales play strategy that needed to be done. So this was basically, looking and working with our partners and our sales teams to really figure out what that strategy looked like. And then we had sales enablement as well as monitoring. So, again, with monitoring, everyone did their own thing, but the metrics differed. There is one element on B2B SaaS that's really important, and that's the sales enablement piece. So again, how do you bring a product to market and inform and educate your sales teams on how to sell that product and how to position that product. So sometimes some companies have sales enablement teams, or sometimes that might be taken up by a marketing function or a sales function. So you really are preparing that package to share with the sales teams and make them feel prepared when they're speaking to the buyers. So how did this happen? How did we enable a global cross-functional launch? Literally clear, open, and honest communication. And we were working across different time zones. It was a lot of working with project sheets, emailing, staying accountable as well, and just having that commitment to come together as a team and work things out properly. So we had that clear alignment from the top, and project plans were shared openly with all the teams. What's really important here when it comes to go-to-market is actually having a very strong project manager. And that's not really a product marketing or product person, but we had a dedicated project manager who kept every team accountable. Now, when you're working across different time zones, you also do compromise. Not everything has to be done in North American timing, for example. So sometimes you'd have calls, to suit APAC timing or the Europe timing. So to sum it up, every team really has a role to play when it comes to cross-functional go-to-market. So make sure that you have a roles and responsibilities framework like a RACI or a RAPID. Have a plan on paper, and that keeps everybody accountable. Measure and iterate. Be smart. I think we're all very familiar with this acronym. And communicate. Email updates, meetings, announce numbers. It's very easy to fall into the trap of I want to build visibility and talk about my achievements, but the last part, that follow through, is really, really important. So you need to actually follow through. Follow up on your emails. Just remember that, throughout this whole journey, growth isn't really a strategy. It is a result of great GTM processes. And this will help you, if you develop those cross-functional relationships, it'll help you become the company that you really want to be. And, hopefully you either do your best or die trying. So that's it for me.
This was awesome, Yvonne. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions, but I'm going to be really quick since we're almost out of time.
Sure.
The first one is, what are the top 3 tools you use in your role that you can't live without or work without?
Competitive intelligence tools are really important. So things like Crayon or Clue. I also love project management tools. So, Monday, Rike, they're really good at keeping accountable and showing people visibility of what you're doing.
That's great. And the next question is, how hard has it been to reach consensus on GTM tactics on a day-to-day basis? And how frustrating was it when you had to go through conflict resolution?
Oh, it is tough, and it will always happen. It's never perfect. So what I would say is that always document your meetings, always document the outcomes, and always come to your meetings with an agenda. You're basically trying to drive, an outcome, right? So, hey, we're meeting because we need to decide on a thing. Let's make a decision. This is what's going to happen. Let's follow up. Done.
Got it. One last super quick question. How does the GTM strategy, how different is it when you are in your beta stage to the actual launch of the product?
It depends on how complex it is. There are some times when you have to use a beta to say, okay, look, we can't launch this product. And you need to be prepared for that. Sometimes it could be really smooth and then you'd be saying, okay, we're good to go, which is why having those weekly meetings and those open communications is really important so that none of your stakeholders are surprised.
Got it. This is super helpful. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining us. All the other guys who've been attending, thank you for being here. And you can join all the other sessions as and when you see it.